Bible Talk Wednesday.
This is Bible Talk. With your host, Leader, the only one.
Your first loser.
I am closer to be better, to be the best, okay? So cut me some slack.
John Fumbly.
Bubba Fett. Attack mode?
Yep, I see that.
Attack mode?
Yep.
Attack mode?
Yep.
I'm in attack mode right now.
Adrian A. Indalos.
I'm a man. I fix things. Cook barbecue and fix things.
This is Bible Talk.
Well, everybody, is about that time, fam. How are you guys doing today? I'm your host, Leader, the only one. This is Bible Talk, and we're so excited to be back after a little while. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Introducing my duo, the one and only John Fumbly. What's up, baby? How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking.
That's good, man. I miss your pretty face.
I know, me too. I never look at it. This is the only time I get to bask in my own glory. So
oof. It's the time, man. It's the time.
It is.
The co-star of the show, Mr. Adrian Indolo. What's up, baby? Oh. Wait, what?
What's up? There we go.
Wait, but you did a little.
I did a little this,
and
a little this,
and a little that. Okay.
And that.
What's out of that finger, man? What's happening there?
It's a ring. It's one of the secret rings of Lord of the Rings.
Okay. No, the mortar ring, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean it is black, so.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We're so happy to see you guys back. Give you guys a little bit of what is happening, why we weren't here, and all that. Well, number one, I honestly got tired of the boys, so I needed a break. They're just annoying.
Understandable.
As heck. And so I was like, you know what? We're just going to cut off a little bit. Second, Adrian will tell us another thing that happened during this time. And then that's kind of what's been happening. So we figured out, well, it's good to pause a little bit, take a good break, come back, and God is good. We're all together. And I'm a little bit sick, though. I'm coughing a little bit. So if you guys hear me cough, apologies about that. Ew. Gross. But we good. Anyways, welcome, everybody. Welcome. Please say hi in the chat. We want to know that you're there. Please tell us how we're doing, how you guys doing, what's good in your life. And as usual, we'll start this show by giving some good news. I got the worst good news ever. because I'm lame right now. So I'll start and I'll say, you know what? My Braves are 21-5 this June. If they win tomorrow, which is the last day of June, they'll put a new record ever on the Braves' history of most wins in 1 month. So I'm pumped about that. You guys know that I'm a Braves fan, so chop it up. Works good. So I'm excited about sectionals are coming up in tennis for several of my teams, my 4-5 team, my tri-level team, my combo team. So it's that time where it's crunch time where we get to play some serious tennis. So you're gonna see a bunch of streams, you may see vlogs and so on and so forth. So get excited about that. Anyway, that's me. John, how about you, man? You got some lame good news to give us?
Yeah, I got two things.
Okay, two
One,
things.
we got this awesome handy dandy AC unit over here.
Oh,
And
snappity.
it is super
That's so
loud.
high tech. That's so high
It
tech.
is so loud. So you're gonna hear that a lot. Anyway, so a good friend of mine got married recently. Not Adrian.
Okay.
Get out of here, Adrian. And at Disney, and I didn't know this, but Disney bought out. Oh no, Adrian, come back. I'm sorry.
He was like, okay.
Anyway, back to my story.
Okay,
I didn't
I'm
know
back.
this, but Disney bought Monty Python. Did you guys know that?
Who's Monty Python? Yikes.
Oh, no.
I killed
You
him
don't
today.
know who Monty Python is?
No.
Oh my
Don't worry,
goodness.
leader. It's definitely a white people. Like I
All right,
know
he's not
about
gonna
it,
get
but
this
it's
then.
but it's
He's not
definitely a
gonna
white
get
people
this.
thing.
He's
Yeah.
not gonna get it.
Just flesh wound?
It's just
Yes,
flesh
sir.
wound.
Yes, sir.
Just look it up. Just look up Monty Python Black Knight.
You could look up Monty Python Quest for the Holy Grail.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Is it like a
but
movie or
it's
something?
specifically
Yeah.
the scene with the Black Knight.
It's made by Monty Python. Monty
Oh.
Python was like a TV show back in like the 70s and 80s.
No, it was an acting troupe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because they made a whole bunch other than just Monty Python. Like my wife. Oh, I see. I can say that now. My
Ooh.
wife and her dad are big Monty Python fans, and so
Mhm.
they watch all the little skits that they produce.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I don't want to break and burst your bubble. I'll never watch that. I saw it as 1970s. Sorry.
Dang, bro.
Hard
Leader doesn't
pass.
appreciate the classics.
He does
Hard
not.
pass.
He does not. It's
Name,
magnificent.
name American classics. I guarantee you, I haven't seen one.
It's not
of the movies
American,
that
it's
you're about to
British.
see, or whichever classic. Name classic. Here, shoot, go. Now I haven't seen one.
Wait, of what? What?
An
American classic.
Yes.
An American classic?
Casablanca.
No, haven't seen it.
Breakfast
Citizen
at
Kane?
Tiffany's.
Nope.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars. Yeah, but that's not American classic.
Any Star?
Well, that wasn't made in
Yes,
the
it
70s.
is.
Yeah.
Star Wars. All
Uh-huh.
of Star Wars is an American classic.
Okay,
Well,
I've
not
seen all
Disney
Star Wars.
Okay, so he has.
And I'm particularly a
probably
fan
it, though.
of Disney Star Wars, though.
Wait, what?
I prefer Disney Star Wars than
So basically, he thinks the new Star Wars is better than the old Star Wars.
Oh.
yes, yes.
We
I'm
won't
actually
talk
gonna
about all the
barf
plot holes in the
all
Obi-Wan
over the
Kenobi
place.
series.
It was a terrible series, by the way. The worst one ever, in
What?
my opinion.
Kenobi?
Obi-Wan-
Okay, hold
Kenobi.
on a second.
Yeah,
Hold
yeah.
on a second.
No,
This
no,
guy thinks
okay.
that Boba Fett was the best ever.
No.
Literally the worst chase scene ever. Okay, they had set showing. All of the outfits didn't make sense because they were on Tatooine and they're wearing like none of them had a sunburn. You're telling me that a single person constantly wearing vests
sunburns.
didn't have sunburns? I'm so
Speaking
sorry.
of sunburns, it's okay. It's fine. But you know,
Obi-Wan was
they're
like
used to it. But also, it took like 3 episodes for the plot to develop in
That's true.
Boba Fett, and you're telling me that's the best series? No. Out of the 3, it has to be Mando.
Who wants
Mando,
to see a
for sure.
merciful, vicious bounty hunter? I was there for the bounty hunter that we all knew and loved, not the
I know.
reformed Boba Fett. Get out of here, Disney.
I know. He
I will
probably
admit-
likes the fact that in the prequels they talk about how important the trade, intergalactic trade routes are. Leader finds that super important to the Star Wars canon.
Yes,
Listen, it's business and
definitely.
logistics, man. I'm all about that. All about
now,
that.
I will admit that Disney's visual everything and
Yes.
almost all except for Boba
So
Fett,
good.
because the ones in Boba Fett was just absolute dog water. but their visuals are magnificent, especially in their movies.
The lightsabers,
really good.
the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, I think they looked very
I don't
good.
know
Okay.
about that. I don't know about
On that, and I'll end on this. I don't know if you want to move on later, but I just
Talk about
want
Star
you,
Wars,
right?
bro.
Since I just want you to watch like the latest lightsaber duels and then compare it. Like, okay, like watch the lightsaber duel between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, like of the new series.
Yeah.
And then go back to episode 4 and watch like old Obi-Wan Kenobi and old Darth Vader
Yeah.
doing the original lightsaber duels.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things is like, did choreography get better over the last 50 years, or are they just old? That's the question.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite lightsaber battle was Darth Maul against Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. My
That was a
absolute
good one.
favorite. My absolute
very
favorite
good.
battle. That's my
It was very
top one.
good. He's
And
right.
then my favorite sword, because my favorite character is or my favorite lightsaber is Kylo Ren's. I think it just looks incredibly sick, especially on the snow.
Mhm.
I think it looks super sick.
I've always
So-
been a huge fan of the dark saber and like the Mandalorian
I-
stuff. Like
yeah.
even before they started
I
It
just
like,
like
looks
the way
so
delving
cool.
into it.
Saber sounds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
hmm
So I'm one thing. Okay.
Okay.
If you want to see the pinnacle of Star Wars fight scenes,
hmm
it's no movie. It's actually a video game called
You
The
told
Force
me.
Unleashed.
You told me.
Mhm.
Go and watch the fight scenes from it because the choreography, everything about it. If Disney could replicate that, they would make it killing.
Incredible.
It was just magnificent. It was magnificent.
Okay. All right. Well, we need some good news from you, Adrian, which got the lamest of them all good news.
Absolutely.
I know.
sure.
I'm trying to see. Is there a way for me to share my screen? Oh yeah, I can share my screen.
Yes, you certainly can share your screen.
Okay. So how do? Okay, let me. Figure
Yeah,
out
you
how-
do your
how to
thing.
do it. Okay,
For
so
sure.
let me share
Yes. You can share a
Can I use
window. You can share a
slides?
program. Yeah.
from your computer.
Yes.
Oh, I can. Oh, I have to upload. Oh, okay.
Yes, that's pretty legit.
Oh, okay.
Huey.
No, I can't do that.
Or you
Okay,
can share your screen though.
I'll just do share screen. I'll just do share
yeah,
screen.
and
yeah,
open
sure.
up your stuff and we can just see it.
We'll do this one.
Do we have to switch the screen to the other one, or does he have to?
No, he can do it, and I think I gotta prove it. I think, or
Oh,
you,
okay,
John,
okay,
you can
okay,
also
okay.
prove it. I think this is gonna be a first.
We've never done this before.
Yep.
Well, I mean, Leader's the only one who really does it. So
Okay, hold on. I have to read.
Oh. Well,
Dude,
you
I-
scared him off, John. That's kind of
I
on
did
you.
100%. 100%. That was my fault. It was the Disney talk. I think that's what did it.
Disney's awesome. No, really, but
It's
Disney
pretty
Star Wars
awesome.
is good.
Disney is awesome.
It's
Well,
okay.
yeah, no, actually,
They've
Disney's
gone
not.
bad.
Disney's terrible.
Okay, let's
They've
try this
gone
again.
bad.
Share screen.
Well, they've been bad for a while.
share screen.
Kind of all about. the
It's
money,
getting
though.
worse, though. It's getting worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huzzah!
Oh, yes, sir.
So
Are these the same pictures you posted online?
yeah.
I think.
So your boy got married.
Oh,
Let's
Right.
get
you
it.
guys look so cute.
And
Look
then,
at Austin, though. Austin. We love Austin. Who cares about those two? The dog
know.
is everything.
I know.
I like the purple roses.
It was
Yeah.
so pretty, John. You have no idea. It was so big.
Well,
then-
I didn't get an invite, so
It's okay. You're just not as cool as you should be.
it's true. It's true.
You need to work on
And
that,
then,
John.
and then after
I've
that,
been
we
trying,
went
but it's
to
hard. Oh yes,
Yeah.
Bro,
we went
I
on our
wanted-
honeymoon.
Chichen
I've
Chichen
wanted to go
Itza.
see the pyramids in Mexico for ages, bro. Oh, I'm so
And
jealous.
and fun fact, we were actually there on the last day of the summer solstice. So
Really?
like this picture back in ancient times wouldn't exist because this is when they would be like sacrificing people in order to bring the
Ooh.
rain god down from the heavens down to earth, so that way
Ooh.
it's the hottest part of the year, so they need rain, and so this is where they would be sacrificing people to bring the rain god down in order to bring the rains with them.
Interesting. Terrible culture, amazing history. Is this the one where if you clap at it, it like comes back, it reverberates to the specific spot?
Yep.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. And then what else? So this is the terrible beach that we got to
Ew.
play-in. You know,
Nasty.
it's just really
they
awful.
They were cleaning the seaweed. I told you that
Yeah,
was, I was a little
so
nervous
yeah,
about that.
so when we got there Monday, I guess a storm just happened, and so like
Mhm.
this entire area
Brown.
was brown with seaweed.
Yeah.
But then they spent like all week like cleaning it up, and they do a really good job.
Yeah.
I was very happy and excited that we got to at least be in the sand for a little bit.
That's
And then we
awesome.
also went, let's see, snorkeling,
Oh, cool.
and we got to see some sea turtles. Yeah, it was
That's
fun.
awesome. This is Gulf
And,
side.
Yes.
It's on the
Caribbean.
Caribbean
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that water's really clear. It looks like the Keys almost.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's Caribbean
Yeah.
side is like that. It's clear.
Man, I love it.
So yeah,
It's gorgeous.
in the entire time that we've been doing Bible talk, your boy went from single to engaged to married.
Can
So-
you
That's
believe
true.
that, you guys? Can you let that sink in for a second?
Sunk.
That's incredible. You're
I don't think you've
fine,
missed
Travis. We love
anything.
you. We love you.
We haven't streamed for a while. We took
Yeah.
a bit of a break, so I wouldn't stress too much, Travis.
We love you, though, Travis. Thank you for being here. Well, fam, there you go. This is what we do every single time on the show. We always kind of open up the floor a little bit, talk a little bit about good stuff, because we live in this world that is kind of tough. It's always rough. There's one thing after another. When you think COVID is gone, Ukraine war hits. Whenever Ukraine war hits, gas price hits. Whenever gas price hits, abortion stuff happens. Whenever abortion stuff happens, guns happens. Whenever gun happens, I mean, it's just like a never-ending story. And there's a very simple explanation as to why this world is not ours. It's the devil's, and he will always do his thing to make it real tough on us. And so, because of that, we like to start always a show like this with some good news, and you get to know us a little bit better. And so that's always fun. Anyway, but now we're going to jump into the actual show. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of reminder. Number one,
Thanks, Travis.
What is he saying? Put it up. John, you can put it up while I talk.
Do your job, John.
He doesn't do anything. John is just, look at him, just chilling back.
But he's so
Nothing.
cool looking, though. He's just so cool looking.
Anyway, what this show is just kind of like a live podcast, but also it's still a live stream where you guys get to participate, but it's still a podcast. So it's not a place for us to really argue with you. We won't do that, but we will answer a lot of questions, even some of them that are a little, over there, more so than over here type of thing. And we do like those questions, but sometimes we will not answer some questions. Having said that, we do have the Discord. My bot's not working, so the Discord link is not up. Maybe John, if he wasn't that lazy, could find the Discord link and post it on the chat, but maybe not. Maybe he'll decide not to. But on the Discord,
Peter
we do
acts
get
like
to
we
talk.
get paid or something.
See, tons of money, tons, in form of gaming time, love, hugs, high fives, and some other stuff. We barter it that way. Anyway, so welcome to the show, because this show eventually one day, God permitting, is going to be an actual podcast online. I got to do a real quick intro, so bear in mind, you guys, we're going to do that. John, you're recording, by the way? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to Bible Talk. This is season 2, episode 26. We're in our spiritual warfare series. This is episode 2 of that, or part 2. My name is Leader the Only One. I'm your host with the most, at Leader the Only One, everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and the YouTubes and Instagram. With me, my duo, the one and only John Fumbly. John, shout out to your stuff, please.
John's Fumbly. That's it. Nothing else. Nowhere. Just
The
that.
The co-star of the show, Adrian Indelos. What's up, Adrian?
What's up, guys? So for those of you who don't know, I have my own photo and video business. You can find me at adrianindelos.com. That's ADREANINDOLOS.com. And you can find me on the TikTok and the Gram at Adrian_I. That's ADREAN_I. And then if you want to privately text me, I have a public text line at 214-865-8348. Again, that text number is 214-865-8348.
There you guys have it. By the way, I forgot to mention, I am new in the TikTok world, so hit me a follow over there, you fam. Leader the Only One. Okay, let's jump into this. It's been a minute, so I want to give you guys a quick refresher. One, a spiritual warfare series. I got my notes handy dandy, and we're gonna go through them real quick. What we talk about was last time on our part 1 was the type of enemies that we're fighting. We went through Ephesians 6. That was pretty cool because we got to talk the actual physical enemies in person, but also talk about demons and spirits and things like that, right? That we're fighting through. We also talk about how important it is to separate the spiritual world from the real world or the flesh world, because we gotta fight both ends sometimes literally physically, but most of the time literally spiritually. Unless we're in the Middle East and we're persecuted as Christians, then it becomes a lot physical. You're literally running for your life. And then we'll also talk about how our enemy, right, Satan, is a father of lies. And that is super important to understand, simply because everything that gets sold to us in this world is pretty much a lie. And so if we can understand that first, the battles become a little bit better. So that's where we're at. We're in part 2. So can we get started, John? Are we ready to be doing some reading or what?
Oh, I stay ready.
You stay ready. Let's see.
Stay ready. Excuse me.
You're good. We're gonna jump into the e-sword, baby. Okay, we're gonna read 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 to 5. So 2 Corinthians, not Chronicles, Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3 through 5. I'm reading on the ISV. What are you reading on, John?
ESV.
ESV. By the way, shout out to eSword. eSword is the app that we utilize for this show. It's a free app. Everybody can download it. It's pretty legit. And the reason why I like it specifically, that I use it for everything in my life, devotional, church, everything, study, anything. It's because a few things. Number one, I get access to several translations. These are the translations that I like from the Bible: American Standard Version, Basic English, and an international version, because it's easier for me to read, as English is my second language. But also got the King James Version, which is kind of your typical classic Bible, I guess, which is really hard for me to read. But most importantly, we have the King James Version Plus, which includes the Strong's Dictionary, which means it comes with the original words that the Bible was written in Greek, Hebrew, and Aramese. So we actually get to access the meaning of some words. And that is really important, because when I read the Bible, we can't just read it on the 1000th translation, as a lot of things get lost through. More importantly, English is not as rich as a language as Hebrew or Greek. And so sometimes we fall short when we translate it, and we kind of miss some points. So shout out to eSword. Show them some love. You guys are amazing company. And so let's get rolling, John. Let's go. 2 Corinthians 10, 3 to 5.
For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but of divine power, to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ.
Ton to unpack here. First of all, you guys, I gotta ask you guys this: do you guys feel like, and I want to answer from both of you guys, do you guys feel like you are in a constant war, like every day in your life, or this is something that you kind of battle from time to time? Or I kind of know what your spiritual warfare looks like. Does it feel like that? Is it like that? Is it not like that? John, I'm gonna throw you first. I'm curious.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, he goes. Yeah.
Solid answer. Solid
No,
answer.
I mean, it feels like we're in a war. It doesn't mean that I always see, like, combat, but
Okay.
we're definitely in a war. There's war all around us for ideas and philosophies. There's a lot of people that see combat a lot more often than I do, but it doesn't mean that I don't see it.
Okay. Adrian, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it's actually very personal. So growing up, I struggle, and I still struggle with anxiety and depression, and so every day it's a battle to. I don't want to say, for me, like, I don't want to like over dramatize it. It's like, I mean, there are days where I wake up and I just don't want to get out of bed, and some people think it's like laziness, but for me, there's just something that's like, man, like, I just am in a terrible mood. I just don't want to do anything. I can just turn on the TV and just lay in bed all day. And it's something that it might be chemical. I don't know what it is. I haven't really done my research into kind of looking into it, because like in those instances, like I do find the strength to just pray and just say, God, like I can't do this on my own today, and like I really need your help. And so for me, like there is a larger spiritual battle being fought, and I am aware of that, but there's also like a personal spiritual battle
Mm,
that some days are definitely harder than others, that I really have to to fight, using the spirit, and using God as my strength.
mm. I like both answers. I think it's interesting because I mean, specifically here in this chapter, right? Paul is writing to the Corinthians. I feel like it's very descriptive of something that is kind of scary, man. This is, I mean, look at it. Of course, we're living in the world, but we don't wage war in a warlike way. For the weapons of our warfare, not of this world. Instead, they have the power of God to demolish fortress. He's not saying, say, hey guys, you'll have some thoughts during your day, and you'll fight him off. He's giving a pretty strong description of serious warfare. Like I would say, we're translate this to like today's language. It'll say something like, and of course, we're not fighting against people, but you do have access to nuclear power as part of your tool set that is not from this world but is spiritual, to absolutely destroy hell and all the demons that come with it. And I think that'll be pretty shocking. It's actually pretty shocking for me. This the way that I just said is kind of shocking. You don't hear this stuff often, and so I believe, and I'll start saying by this, like me personally, I think I take some of this stuff for granted, and I think I shouldn't. Meaning, I don't know if it's. I mean, it's both ways. One, it's confidence in God, and that's always good, but also the devil doing his job to sometimes mask the fact that we're kind of okay, when in reality this is an everyday fight. It doesn't matter if it's as simple as not simple, because depression ain't not simple, Adrian, or anxiety, but to some people it might be as like, well, you're not battling whatever, right? But pornography is, and it's not simple. Bad thoughts or hatred thoughts, it's not simple, and you battle that every day. I mean, talk about when you're even driving and get some little bit of rage, and you get angry at somebody that cut you off, right? And it's so simple. And I think we take for granted that at that point we should be accessing these weapons, we should be tearing down these fortresses, and we should be beating the enemy through these things. And I think we don't. And the reason why it's not a big deal is because sometimes we feel like the consequence is not the same as if I kill somebody, if I lie to my best friend, stabbing behind their back, and destroying their trust, or something else that gets to see consequences that are bad. I think that's also part of the devil's work. He's such a good at lying that'll make you feel that those battles you lose, and it's totally okay. Like nothing has happened, right? You didn't hurt anybody. You were angry, but nothing really happened. But number one, we already missed the mark by sinning. So we already kind of are in a pretty bad spot in God's eyes. But number two is you can start getting the Holy Spirit to work less in your life that way, right? So, say, I think lying is a perfect example, because lying never starts with something big, it always starts with something small. And at first, the Holy Spirit will poke you pretty hard and say, man, you just lied, right? But eventually, the devil does it so well that makes you feel like lying is okay. And then you become a compulsive liar pretty quickly. And the thing is, you don't feel like you're lying, or you don't feel like it's wrong to lie, even. I think where the devil has gone really good. And that's something that scares me, right? It's something that I pray for daily. And I say, God, I want to make sure that I'm fighting this wars to the max, but with you, and that I don't take it for granted. Because I think this is no joke, man. Otherwise, Paul wouldn't write this, right? He would just say, it's like, hey guys, just don't sin, right? Follow God and don't sin, or something like that. But this is pretty descriptive. And by the way, this is just the intro to this. We're about to dive into this, and it's nothing light to talk about. Matter of fact, I think in the Christian life, this is probably the one thing that we should be focusing a lot on, and hence why we have this series. It's what, 4 episodes? I think at least 4 episodes so far, because I think it's really important. Um, okay, boys. Quickly through verse 5. I got another question to follow up with you guys. And every obstacle that is raised against the knowledge of God, taking every thought captive in order to obey the Messiah. I want to focus in obedience. I think we'll agree that we're not saved by actions, correct? We're saved by faith and His grace. But having said that, I think the formula to success on everything is obedience. How do you guys feel about that? I think even like you can translate to business, uh, marriage, relationships. That's just me. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on obedience? Specifically, obviously in the spiritual warfare, but just as a grand scheme of things, John.
I mean, it's talking a lot about your inner thoughts and having arguments with people there, right?
Yep.
So when God says to obey Him in this circle, here, can you bring it back up?
Oh, for sure.
Because
Verse
I
5.
already tabbed off on mine.
Yeah.
And every proud obstacle that is raised in the knowledge of God, taking every thought captive in order to be. So this is Paul the Apostle. So he was like the father of apologetics, right? And so
Mhm.
it seems like a lot of what he's talking about here is apologetics based, right? So for the weapons of our warfare are not those of the world. Instead, they have the power of God to demolish fortresses. We tear down arguments, right? And so what happens is usually people, especially atheists, people who hate God, they'll build themselves up a fortress of thought and philosophy so that they can ignore God and they can
Mhm.
ignore and lie to themselves that God doesn't exist, right? And I think those, in a way, are the fortresses that he's talking about, right? And so when he asks us to obey him, I think in this circumstance specifically, he's telling us that God is going to give us the ammunition, he's going to give us the weapons, he's going to equip us to destroy the fortresses of people who are philosophically protecting themselves from righteousness.
Mm. Mhm. Adrian, your thoughts on obedience as part of this formula to success, I guess.
I mean, I for some people, I mean, it's I don't know. So I'll just say, like, for me, obedience is a difficult word to swallow because let's face it, as me being as entrepreneur as I am, like, I've always had, I don't want to say like an issue with authority, but I want to be able to kind of like call my own shots, hence why, I'm a business owner. But for me, obedience isn't as, I don't know, like, I know what's the right word for it, but for me, like, obedience is more like, not necessarily like rules to follow, but like, hey, like, if you want this, if you want peace, if you want salvation, if you want all these good things, like, here is, like you said, the formula to success. Here's how to achieve peace in your life, to achieve happiness, true happiness. And so for me, like, that obedience is kind of almost like a welcome. Like, God's like, hey, like, I love you, but I'm not gonna force you, right? It is kind of a little bit like free will kind of thing. Like, I'm not gonna, try to force you and bend you to my will. But if you want all these amazing things that I have for you, like, you kind of have to, sign the dotted line and obey, that sort of thing. It's that's kind of how I kind of perceive that.
Kind of conditional, huh?
Yeah.
Um, I also believe that obedience brings peace, man. I don't know. When I do something real good for someone, it feels so good, but it doesn't feel so good because I knew that I did something good for somebody. It just feels good because I don't know, it feels good. It feels like I feel pretty awesome. So, and my wife is, I preach this a lot about my wife. Like, my wife would, for instance, we've picked up people from the road on the winter where it's really cold and they get stuck and they get gas and this, that, and the other. And when I do that, it doesn't feel good because I help. It feels good because it's like peaceful, man. And so I think obedience can be tied on a lot with peace. And when we talk about war times, like especially now, like with Ukraine and Russia and all that, right? I think we'll seek peace. Peace is something that we pursue in the midst of war, right? Or at least the sense of being peaceful, or the constant search of peacefulness. And I believe that obedience, as one of its results, it brings that to our lives daily. Now, grant you, we obedience, it is a requirement. I think we have to do it, but I think the consequences are too good to miss out on. And I also believe that it is not easy, age, and I concur with you more in the leadership kind of role. It's kind of hard to do, man. Especially listening, I think is really hard to do. And like taking constructive criticism and things like that is challenging, man. But I think it's part of that process of sanctification. I love that this is something that you preach all the time, John, right? We're living in a process of constant sanctification, and I think obedience is a huge role. At least it is for spiritual warfare, which is pretty cool. Okay, we're gonna move on. Do you guys got anything to add here for this? Nope.
Nope.
Going once, gone twice, gone. We're gonna go to James chapter 4, verse 6.
Ready?
Mhm.
But he gives more grace. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble.
Okay. And by the way, next verse says, therefore submit yourselves to God, resist evil, and he will run away from you. Right?
Was I supposed to read more?
Yeah. Sorry, I that's
Oh.
my fault. I didn't put it the whole way. It was supposed to
My
be
bad.
both verses, because this is what ties into
Right.
how can defeat the devil, right? Excuse me. Okay, so few things, and I think I guess we can start with this. Raise your hand if you believe that you're humble enough in the eyes of God. Let the record show not one of us three did.
You got to put your hands further down, leader. They're too high up.
Okay, I apologize. I'm going
There you
all the
go.
way. Adrian is gone. He put himself on the floor.
That's a healthy self-awareness right there.
Yeah. um, man, I think that's one of the things that probably is one of the worst things that we have in our self being, this flesh that believes that can do it all, that doesn't need God, that is good, that is fair, that is awesome, that is hardworking, that is smart, that can make things happen, that can take on businesses, that can grow relationships, that can destroy people in League of Legends, that can, shatter and win nationals in tennis and all this stuff. And I think that is so terrifyingly dangerous for a Christian walk. I don't know about you guys how you feel about that, but arrogance, I think, is a huge problem. And I want you guys to, and this is my question, I guess, to the both of you guys will be this: we're tying in a huge word. He gives us all the more grace, right? Grace is huge here. As he says, God opposes the arrogant, but gives grace to the humble. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about grace for a second and humbleness together. Number one is, I guess, what are you doing today, the both of y'all, to become more humble? Because I think this is a daily thing, maybe even. And second, have you experienced God's grace through humbleness before? And if so, can you expand a little bit on it? Maybe give an example or so. Adrian, you're up first.
What was the two questions?
Oh my God, you guys never pay a question.
No,
my
so
questions.
I'm trying to like break it down, like each word.
First off, right? What are you doing in your life to be more humble? Right? Is it a daily thing? Is what are you working on it? How can you work on it? And so on and so forth. What does it even mean, I guess, to be humble, I guess, from your standpoint? And then second, while being humble, have you experienced God's grace? And what is that like? Right? Because that's a promise, right? If you are not arrogant, but humble, he will fill you with grace. So
okay. So I just want to make sure I understand. So I try really hard to be humble. For me, my battle, my struggle with humility is the fact that I am in I don't want to say like heavily, like it is 100% a visual industry, right? When you're in photo and video, like it's all visual, right? And so when I'm just scrolling through the gram or if I'm on TikTok, right? It's, you know, I don't want to say like I'm competing with anyone else because I'm honestly not. But like when I look at, I don't know, how many views this other photographer got, or maybe I compare my work, to someone else. And then, even on like on the business end, to say like I am a successful, photographer, that I run my own business and that I'm thriving and I'm, doing my thing and I'm, killing the game, that sort of thing. There is a little bit of like, pride in my work, but I was taught, growing up, and it hasn't stuck. So I'm still like working on it, um, to give it back, to return the blessing that God gave me in my talent of business, in my talent in photography as an artist, and to give it back to his people. So I mean, there are things that I like. I humble myself, like for example, like whether it's giving discounts or being able to be negotiable, and that sort of thing. Um, from a work standpoint, that's kind of like how I give back, but also even like on a day-to-day level, like sure, like for example, we were very blessed with as all the friends and family that A came to our wedding, but B like just gave us some really nice gifts. Some of the gifts that we got were just like, wow, like we are truly blessed to have really supportive friends and family. Um, and it's one of those things that like we look at it and we don't want to take those gifts and go, oh, like let's buy a new TV. And believe me, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I'm just kidding. But Mallory and I, we looked at each other and we was like, we have to steward this, right? We were called to do our jobs on this earth, and to steward all the blessings that God gave us. And so we're gonna take all of our funds and we're gonna put it to, you know, building our home together, to how can we uh you know works with charity, and that sort of thing. And so like we have to remind ourselves that all the good things that come into our lives came from God, and we have to return it to God.
I like the answer. John, I'm curious. I think Adrian did a really good job at saying it more from a flesh standpoint. How about talking about from a spiritual standpoint? How about humbleness tied in spiritually?
Sure. Um, I mean, it's kind of a big topic to. So, can I just give a story?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
So,
Do your thing.
I have two grandparents, as most people do. Um, I have two grandparents, right? One grandparent, when I was younger, I realized God had shown more grace to than the other, right? And so I wondered why. Why would God give more grace to one than the other, right? Like, what is the purpose of that, right? Um, and I think when it comes down to it, you can be humble without being humble, right? Like you can be like, oh man, I'm humble, right? Like, yeah, okay, sure, you're being humble, but you're not really, right? Like there's a lack of self-awareness there, right? I think to be humble is to be aware of how wretched you truly are, right? My one grandfather was a very evil person. He did very bad things when he was a young man, and he was completely aware of it, right? And that awareness allowed him to serve God, right? God gave him more grace because he knew that he was a bad person, and God still loved him and trusted him, right? Now, on the other side of that coin, there was a grandfather who ignored that, right? He wasn't necessarily as bad as my other grandfather, but he had very minimal self-awareness compared to him, right? And God did not give him as much grace, and he lived a much more boring life than my other grandfather, right? And so it's an example of two grandfathers. One had more sin in his life, but he was aware of his sin and he gave it to God, and God blessed him immensely from it. And so God gave him more grace. So yes, I would say to be humble is to be aware of your sin and to give it to God and allow God to bless you and give you the grace that he's going to give you.
It's thank you for that, John. I appreciate this story too. I love when we get a little bit more personal. Um, this is so important, you guys, because if you want to defeat devil, this is how you do it. You submit yourself to God. By the way, humbleness and submission are two words that are very close together. It's almost like you cannot submit yourself without being humble. Otherwise, it'll be like half submission. And you can also not be humble without submitting yourself to other people, right? If I am going to be humble to my boss, I'll submit to the things that he wants, right? If I am going to be submissive to my wife, I'm not gonna make sure that I'm humble with her and the stuff that she does and lift her up, right? So I think they go very well with one another. But when you tie them together, that's what works together. That's what works really well together to resist the devil and believe it. He will run away from you, right? And so, just a few things to keep in mind as Christians. Humble and submission are super important. Always, I love self-awareness, and I love that word. Self-awareness is so critical to this because you I think we're with our egos being so big, I think we're very aware of how amazing we are, but also that blindness of who we are, which I think is a bigger point. We talked about identity before in this show and the importance of understanding who we are in order for us to, for instance, submit ourselves to God, because that's what we should be doing, right? And we should obey him because we depend on him, and so on and so forth. So love both this answers to my question. I love your side of things, Adrian. That is more that applies to real world life, right? I guess like real life examples. And I love your story, John, where you get to compare people that truly have humble to God and submit to God, regardless of how they are, because that's not one thing. Like if you notice, never ever on the Bible, mind you guys, we've read a lot of verses through this show. We've never seen like anywhere that says, well, if you're a liar, you'll get less grace than if you are, you know, a disobedient, or if you're a murderer, you'll never get any grace. In the eyes of God, we're all the same. We're sinners who need salvation, and we all are entitled to have an amount of grace if we take it. If we take it.
Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question, right? So
Yeah.
who's more sinful, right? The
Yeah.
guy who steals and does drugs,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
Or the guy who thinks he's perfect but doesn't obey God,
Oh, bro.
right? Like,
They're both just as bad, dude. There's no difference. I mean, it's so bad.
I don't know, man. I think the guy who ignores God because he thinks he's perfect is
Well,
worse.
I'll tell you one thing. If the guy who's stealing is aware that stealing is bad, that's already a really good thing. But the guy who is blatantly not knowing that God exists and doesn't want to get that, well, I'll tell you,
We
that's
could
the
say
one
they're
on.
both Christian in this scenario. It's more of who's
Oh,
more
okay.
sinful,
Oh,
right?
okay,
It's
gotcha,
like
gotcha.
who's truly following his will. I mean, yeah, neither of them really are, but the guy who is choosing ignorance
Well, let me
and
flip it
ego
on you.
is
Who do you
worse.
think, say they both, accept and repent? Who would think will get more grace from God out of those two?
Whichever one owns up and admits to it,
Boom,
right?
that's
So
it.
if the
That's real.
guy who is ignoring himself and is ignoring his imperfection, right,
Yep.
continues down that path, which is a lot easier than stealing,
Yep.
then he's not going to live
I
a
mean,
very grace-filled life, in my opinion.
Yep.
I
I
think
could be
for
wrong,
me,
though.
I think it's not what they've done that determines their level of grace. And granted, like we're not God, right? We're not assuming what God will do. But for me, it's my belief that it's not so much what you've done that equals the amount of grace that you get, but the amount of submission,
Yep.
right? The amount of obedience that once you commit your life to God, are you all in? Like,
But
for example,
isn't
what if
submission
like
an action?
Yes.
So that means you do it, right? So it is what you've done.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, but not in the sense of what he's saying
right,
about that.
but
This
like
is
okay, like if we're on a timeline, right? Like so this is sin, and then this is the point of like conversion. There's the point of like like I give my life to God.
Mhm.
Is it like so like for example, what if the guy who like lies and steals, right? Only he turns his life over to God, but it's like 80%. It's like I am a Christian, but I might lie a little bit here. I might, if I see a $5 bill, I'm gonna, whatever, that sort of thing. Versus the one who was like, oh, like I'm never gonna listen to God, and then all of a sudden he's like, actually, like I give all of myself, 110% of myself to God. Like in my opinion, it's the one who submits more that's going to receive more.
more grace. There'll be more grace. Now, mind you, guys, does that mean that you're gonna have a very good life? Because I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions in Christianity. Say you are that guy, Adrian, in your example, that just give it all. It was Paul who was destroying people, Christians, chasing them, torturing them, killing them. Worst person in the world ever created, worse than Hitler. And then suddenly turns around, right? In today's world, so we read the Bible enough, but in today's world, that happens. Is this guy going to have a super cool life and successful and stuff because God's very gracious?
No, in fact, his life was the opposite. He went
Yep.
from, profiting from sin
Yep.
to leaving a humble but fulfilled life.
Yep.
But we could see that this scripture is fulfilled in Paul, though, because he was aware of his sin. He called
A
himself the chiefest of
100%.
sinners.
Yes, number
Yeah.
one, right? We're all the sinners. I am number one, he said, literally, which is
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah, so guys, understand that having God's grace doesn't mean that family members are not going to die all the time on us, that we're going to have sickness, that we're going to have money problems, that we're going to have friendships that crumble down, right? Especially now, you guys, look at the world that we're living in. If you do happen to be pro-life for any reason, you just lost 70% of your friends, right?
Mhm.
Like that is nuts to me. If you do happen to believe that we live in a country that was founded by Christianity, right, where Christianity was super important, wherein God with trust is critical, uh, where the Pledge of Allegiance has God in it, right, where right, all that stuff, and we're taking away, and just people just not having it, and you just lost people like that is crazy to me. So being Christian and having His grace does not mean you have an amazing life, but it also means that we have won the war, and that is, I think, the ultimate point, right? That's where it comes down to. By the way, we're gonna get into that later, but let's move on because more Bible verse to read, one Bible verse, and we're almost out of time. Luke chapter 10, John. Luke
18, 19, and 20.
chapter 10, 18, 19, and 20, sir.
And he said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Behold, I have given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice in this, that the spirits are subject to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven.
And I think that's literally what I just said, right? You are going to have to walk on snakes and scorpions, right? And the big deal is not that, right? The big deal is that your name is in heaven already, right? You've won the war, but you're going to be treading on snakes and scorpions every single day of your life, right? And you are holding the power to defeat them, but it's not going to be fun. It's not going to feel fun. It's not going to be enjoyable, right? And mind you, I guarantee that people that have been to war, like actual war, like a colonel somewhere, right, has not come back as like, boy, killing Japanese in World War II was the most fun thing in the world. I guarantee you that's not the case. Nobody in war enjoys being at war, I think. Nobody, not even the bad people. Um, but it's a reality, number one, that we're going through. Number two, the end result is the amazing fact that we have eternity in Christ. And I think that's worth fighting for every single day. I don't know how you guys feel about this, boys. This is very spiritual, right? Not physical at all. This is kind of all spiritual. How you feel about fighting every day for eternity? You guys, are you guys down for it? Is it worth it? Um, is that what you do every day? John, starting with you.
Huh? You said fighting for eternity.
Fighting for eternity,
I don't think
yes.
we fight for eternity.
No,
I think we
meaning
just fight
fighting,
until.
fighting, so that way we get eternity as a result.
Oh,
Fighting
oh,
for eternity, right?
yeah.
That's
No, I,
like
I, I
fighting for
can't.
gold, fighting for diamonds,
I don't
fighting
think I
for.
can add anything to what you said. I think what you said was magnificent. I think
Okay,
people who enjoy the gruesomeness of war are people that probably don't truly understand it. So, yeah, I think what you
okay,
said was perfect.
okay. Adrian, how about you?
Yeah, just kind of like along the same lines. It's something to fight for,
Very cool.
not just for ourselves, but for those whom we love, right? And so, like for example, um, like of course, like I'm gonna fight for my own salvation, and for my own eternity with God. But whenever we pray, right? So this will be a good plug for our Discord, right? If you guys have anything that you need prayers for, right? Like us praying for you is us fighting for your eternity and for your salvation, because whatever it is that you're going through, like we want to give that to God. And so like it's not just eternity for us, but for leader, for John, I pray for them. um and we all want to be there, celebrating an eternity together. So for me, it's not, I want to fight. I want to bring everyone as much as I can, with me.
I love the answer, Adrian. I think that's something that we also get to miss the point. We focus so much on our own stuff that we tend to forget that the reason we're here to begin with is we're ambassadors of Christ in this earth, and we're that light for other people to see so they can join us in eternity with us. And so,
Amen.
um, you hit the nail so hard there, Adrian. I think that's amazing, especially for this specific verse, right? We want people's names to be written in heaven, not just our own. I think something that Jesus will preach all the time, anyways. This is him preaching, anyways, right? Um, it's like, hey, rejoice because your name is written in heaven. So let's get more names written in heaven. I think that's what we all should be focusing on. Okay, very good way to get back into it, you guys. I enjoyed this episode. This is a little more on the theological, spiritual side of things. It's a little bit more complicated. So sorry, guys, if it's a little bit more that way. But hey, listen, we're gonna read all things in the Bible. We don't want to talk just about Jesus and his path, or we don't want to talk just about obedience or grace. We love to talk about everything that has been written on the Bible. We've talked about relationships. We talk about sex. We've talked about even the gender stuff. We talk about spiritual warfare. We talk about persecution. Right? We've talked about all this stuff, and we're not shy of what the Bible has written. I think we're not ashamed. Actually, not shy, not ashamed of what has been written in the Bible, because it is pure power for us for us who believe in Him. Right? And so bear with us. This is a good series. Next week, God permitting, we'll be talking about probably one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, in Ephesians, where we get to read a little bit of what it's like to be prepared for this spiritual warfare. And so that's super cool. Can't wait to have you guys then. But let's do some closing comments, you guys. John, how do you like this series? Good to have you back. Good to be back. Any final thoughts? What you got?
I am really enjoying the series. It's good stuff. I'm learning a lot. So thank you for coming up with the series and asking great questions and whatnot,
I
leader.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of
Looking forward
course.
to it.
Of course. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Adrian, final thoughts.
Yeah, this is a great series, and I just want to apologize publicly. Obviously getting married and everything that's been going on. Like I really wanted to be here, but God was calling me in other ways. But this is just a really fun series, and I like that we as Bible Talk are kind of tackling some of the more uh, the tougher subjects versus just the Jesus loves you and rainbows and unicorns, that sort of thing, which is great. Like there's a time and place for that, but there's also like a time and place for something like this that it's a good reminder. When we talk about humility, it's a good reminder for ourselves to to also be humble.
Amen to that. Amen. You guys, well, there you guys have it. We are getting ready to jump into the Discord. I cannot believe this is the first time in the history of history that John actually already posted on Discord without me asking. So shout out to you, John, for the first time in 100 episodes for you to do what you should be doing every single episode without me having to tell you.
I'm trying to get a raise, baby. From
I was
about
to
baby.
I'm about to say
100% raise.
100%. Holla.
You want that 0% raise, baby. 0% raise.
No, it's 100% because 100% of 0 is still 0.
Well, we love you guys.
I'm pretty sure it's still 0.
Yeah, exactly. That's the joke, Adrian.
I know. So it's not 100%. It's still 0. 100 times 0 is 0.
Hey, Siri. What's 0 divided by 0?
If nothing is divided by nothing, then there's nothing to divide or divide it with, and the division never happened. So my answer is no.
No.
So there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for being in this Bible Talk episode. We can't wait to see you guys next week. Until then, join the Discord. Come over there. We're about to pray. Get over here. Atiyo! The Bible Talk Wednesday.
This is Bible Talk. With your host, Leader, the only one.
Your first loser.
I am closer to be better, to be the best, okay? So cut me some slack.
John's fumbling.
Boba Fett. Attack mode?
Yep, I see that.
Attack mode?
Yep,
Attack mode?
yep.
I'm in attack mode right now.
Adrian A.I. Indelos.
I'm a man. I fix things. Cook barbecue and fix things.
This is Bible Talk.